Amara stood outside the brightly lit grocery store, her fingers clutching a handful of coins so tightly they left little dents in her palm. The late autumn wind cut through her threadbare jacket as she stared at the rows of neatly stacked bread loaves inside. For days, she had gone hungry, saving every coin she found on the street or earned from carrying people's bags at the bus stop. Today, she finally had enough for a small loaf to last her the weekend. Gathering her courage, she stepped inside, trying not to draw attention to her worn sneakers that squeaked against the polished tile floor. The air was warm but smelled faintly of disinfectant, and the hum of refrigerators filled the silence in her chest. She kept her head low as she reached for the bread, afraid of the stares she felt prickling her skin. As she shuffled toward the checkout, her eyes focused on the coins in her palm, counting them again to make sure. But a sharp, mocking laugh stopped her in her tracks. "Oh, this is rich," a woman's voice said, dripping with sarcasm. "Are they letting beggars shop here now?" Amara froze. Slowly, she lifted her gaze and saw a tall woman with perfectly curled blonde hair, dressed in a sleek designer coat and diamond earrings that glittered under the fluorescent lights. The woman's manicured hand rested on her expensive leather purse as she looked Amara up and down with disgust. "Sweetheart," she said loudly, addressing the cashier but ensuring everyone nearby could hear. "Do you even check who walks in here? She probably can't afford a pack of gum, let alone food." A few customers turned to stare, their expressions ranging from curiosity to discomfort. Heat rushed to Amara's cheeks as she clutched the bread closer to her chest. "I have money," she whispered, her voice cracking. But her words were drowned out by another laugh from the woman. "Pathetic," she sneered. "Just throw her out before she embarrasses this place anymore." Amara felt her heart hammering as her throat tightened. For a moment, she considered dropping the bread and running. But then she noticed a tall man in a store uniform step out from behind an aisle, his eyes fixed on the wealthy woman with a calm but firm expression. Mr. Reynolds, the store manager, strode forward with deliberate calm, his polished shoes clicking against the tile as he approached the tense scene. His sharp eyes swept over the trembling girl clutching a loaf of bread, and then to the wealthy woman who stood with her chin raised and arms folded like a queen demanding tribute. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice even but carrying a weight that silenced the murmurs around them. Marissa Blake turned to him with an exaggerated huff, her gold bracelets clinking as she gestured toward Amara. "Finally, yes, there is. This girl doesn't belong in a place like this. Look at her clothes. She probably wandered in to beg or worse, to steal." Her voice was loud, deliberate, designed to invite agreement from the onlookers. But Mr. Reynolds didn't glance at the crowd. His eyes remained steady on her. "And yet, she's holding bread," he said calmly. "That doesn't look like theft to me." Marissa blinked, caught off guard by his lack of deference. "Are you serious?" "Do you know who I am?" she snapped, her voice rising. "I spend thousands here every month. I could have this entire store shut down with one call. So, why are you defending some filthy vagrant?" Amara's cheeks burned at the word vagrant, and she gripped the bread tighter as if it were a lifeline. She opened her mouth to speak, but her words caught in her throat. Mr. Reynolds raised a hand gently, stopping her. "Miss," he said softly, his gaze kind as it met Amara's fearful eyes, "are you here to purchase that loaf?" Amara nodded hesitantly, her small voice barely audible. "Why, yes. I have money." She opened her hand to reveal the collection of coins she had spent days gathering, her fingers trembling slightly. A hush fell over the aisle as the customers watched, some shifting uncomfortably. Marissa gave a sharp laugh. "Pathetic. Look at her. She probably can't even count. Just ask her to leave already." But Mr. Reynolds didn't flinch. Instead, his calm expression hardened slightly as he straightened his posture. "Here," he said, taking a step closer to Amara. "Why don't we settle this properly at the register?" The cashier glanced nervously at Marissa, clearly unsure whose side to take. But Mr. Reynolds nodded firmly, signaling her to move aside. As he gently guided Amara forward, Marissa's face twisted in indignation. "You'll regret this," she spat, but for the first time, there was a flicker of uncertainty in her voice. Marissa's sharp heels clicked loudly against the tile as she followed behind, her voice dripping with contempt. "Unbelievable. You're seriously letting her waste everyone's time? She's probably going to dump a handful of pennies on your counter and ask for charity." Mr. Reynolds ignored her, his focus squarely on Amara, who clutched the bread like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Her chest rose and fell quickly, her breaths shallow as her eyes darted to the growing crowd of customers watching from nearby aisles. Some were whispering. Others simply stared, unsure whether to intervene. "It's all right," Mr. Reynolds said softly to her. "Take your time. Nobody's rushing you." Amara nodded quickly, fumbling to count the coins in her small palm. Her fingers trembled so much that 2 coins slipped and clinked to the floor. Marissa gave an exaggerated sigh, rolling her eyes. "This is ridiculous. I have better things to do than watch a beggar play, cashier." But before she could speak again, a young mother stepped out of the line and walked toward them. Her baby was sleeping in a carrier strapped to her chest. "Excuse me," the woman said quietly but firmly. "She's not doing anything wrong. Let her pay for her food." Marissa turned, her mouth slightly agape, as if shocked anyone dared to oppose her. "Are you serious? People like her are why grocery stores need security guards," Marissa hissed. But the young mother didn't back down. "People like you are why this world is so cold," she replied, her voice calm but cutting. A murmur of agreement rippled through the small crowd. Another man, dressed in a mechanic's uniform, spoke up next. "She's got money. She's not begging or stealing. Leave her alone." For the first time, Marissa's confidence faltered. She glanced around at the faces staring back at her, realizing she was no longer the center of admiration, but the subject of silent judgment. Her cheeks flushed red as she pointed a manicured finger at Amara. "This is a mistake. You'll all regret siding with her," she snapped, but the fire in her voice had dimmed. Mr. Reynolds finally spoke again, his tone sharper this time. "That's enough, ma'am. If you can't treat other customers with respect, I'll have to ask you to leave." Marissa's jaw dropped, her mouth opening and closing as if searching for a retort that wouldn't come. Marissa's eyes flared with disbelief as her manicured fingers tightened around the strap of her designer purse. "You're asking me to leave?" she spat, her voice rising high enough to echo through the aisles. "Do you have any idea who I am? I could buy this entire store and replace you with someone competent in seconds." But Mr. Reynolds didn't flinch. His calm brown eyes locked on hers, unshaken by her threats. "I know exactly who you are, ma'am," he said firmly. "But in this store, your money doesn't buy you the right to humiliate others." The crowd, now a small audience gathered near the checkout, watched in silence. A few pulled out their phones, capturing the confrontation as Marissa's face grew redder by the second. Amara stood frozen, unsure whether to speak or run, her fingers clutching the bread so tightly the plastic crinkled under her grip. "This is absurd." Marissa shouted, "I'm a loyal customer. She's just nothing. Why are you protecting her?" Before Mr. Reynolds could answer, an elderly man leaning on a cane stepped forward from the crowd. His voice was hoarse but steady. "She's not nothing. She's a human being. Maybe it's time you remembered what that means." A ripple of agreement swept through the customers. "Yeah," someone muttered. "She's just trying to eat." Marissa looked around, seeing the faces in the crowd no longer filled with admiration but disapproval. For the first time, her confidence cracked. Her voice faltered as she hissed, "You'll all regret this. You'll see." Mr. Reynolds turned back to Amara, softening his tone. "Miss, would you like to pay for your bread now?" Amara hesitated, her fingers opening to show a small pile of coins in her trembling palm. Her voice was almost a whisper. I don't want trouble. I can pay. I saved it all." Mr. Reynolds held up a hand, gently. "You're not causing trouble. And don't worry about the payment today." He turned to the cashier and nodded. "This one's on the house." A wave of murmurs and surprised gasps spread through the crowd. Amara's eyes widened as she tried to protest. "It's okay," Mr. Reynolds said with a kind smile. "Consider it a gift." Marissa's jaw dropped as she sputtered in outrage. "You're giving her free food? That's ridiculous. People like her don't deserve handouts." But her voice was drowned out as clapping erupted from the crowd. One by one, customers began applauding, their eyes fixed not on her, but on Amara, who stood in stunned silence, clutching her loaf of bread as tears welled in her eyes. The clapping grew louder, echoing through the store as Amara stood frozen, the loaf of bread pressed to her chest. She had never felt so seen and yet so small all at once. Her lips trembled as if searching for words, but no sound came out. The young mother who had spoken up earlier smiled warmly at her and gave a small nod of encouragement. Meanwhile, Marissa's face burned a deep shade of red. Her hands curled into fists as she glanced around and realized the attention had shifted entirely away from her. She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped when she noticed multiple phones pointed in her direction, recording every second of her outburst. "This is ridiculous." Marissa snapped, her voice cracking. "You're all pathetic. Clapping for some dirty girl who—" "That's enough," Mr. Reynolds said sharply, cutting her off. The crowd quieted instantly. "I've asked you once already to treat other customers with respect. If you can't do that, I will have no choice but to ask you to leave." Marissa's eyes darted around, searching for an ally, but none came. Even the cashier who had once looked nervous now stared at her with thinly veiled contempt. "Fine," she barked, spinning on her heels. "This dump isn't worth my time anyway." Her words echoed in the air as she stormed toward the glass doors, the sound of her heels fading with every furious step. Outside, she fumbled with her car keys, glaring at the people inside as if daring them to follow her. But no one moved. Instead, the crowd turned their attention back to Amara. The elderly man with the cane approached her slowly and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Don't let people like her make you feel small, child. You've got every right to be here." Tears slipped down Amara's cheeks as she nodded. Thank you," she whispered. And for the first time in years, she felt the weight in her chest begin to lighten. By the next morning, the scene at the grocery store was all over the internet. The video, titled "Rich Woman Humiliates Homeless Girl, Store Manager Becomes a Hero," had gone viral with millions of views in less than 12 hours. Comments flooded in, praising Mr. Reynolds for his courage and kindness. "We need more people like this in the world," one user wrote. Another said, "I hope that girl gets the help she needs. This broke my heart." On the other hand, Marissa Blake was facing the storm of her life. Her luxury jewelry store's social media pages were bombarded with angry comments. Several prominent clients publicly announced they were cutting ties with her brand. News outlets picked up the story, replaying the clip of her mocking Amara again and again. Marissa's phone rang nonstop, each call worse than the last, business partners dropping deals, sponsors pulling out, and her publicist frantically begging her to issue an apology. But the damage had been done. Meanwhile, strangers across the country rallied for Amara. A kind-hearted viewer started a GoFundMe campaign titled, "Help Amara Get Back on Her Feet." Donations poured in from all over the world. Within hours, the fund had crossed $50,000, enough to give her a fresh start. Amara sat in a small shelter that night, staring at the news on a borrowed phone, unable to believe what she was seeing. "Why? Why are they helping me?" she whispered to herself. She didn't know yet, but her life was about to change forever. A week later, Amara walked back into the grocery store, her steps tentative but her appearance transformed. Her hair was neatly braided, her clothes clean and warm. The old jacket had been replaced with a donated coat, and for the first time in years, she felt human. Mr. Reynolds spotted her instantly and smiled. "I almost didn't recognize you," he said warmly. "How are you feeling?" Amara clutched a small envelope in her hand and nodded. "Better, thanks to you and everyone else." She looked around the store, noticing familiar faces smiling at her. "I came to say thank you. That day, it changed everything. People donated. I have enough now for food, a room, even college classes." Her voice shook with emotion. Mr. Reynolds nodded, his eyes kind. You don't know me, thanks, Amara. You deserve kindness. Never let anyone make you feel like you don't. As they spoke, a familiar figure appeared outside the glass doors. Marissa Blake, dressed in dark sunglasses and a plain coat, was walking briskly past the store. There were no diamond earrings or designer bags this time. Her once proud shoulders were hunched as if she were trying to make herself invisible. Amara watched her go, a strange calm settling over her. She felt no anger, no bitterness, only gratitude for those who had lifted her up. I want to pay it forward, she said softly to Mr. Reynolds. One day, I'll help someone the way you helped me. He smiled. That's all the thanks I'll ever need. And as Amara stepped out into the sunlight, she felt something she hadn't in years: hope.